In the realm of behavioral science, there exists a fascinating yet unsettling phenomenon known as the extinction burst. This intriguing concept describes the tendency for a behavior to intensify rather than diminish when it is no longer met with the expected rewards. Imagine a laboratory rat accustomed to receiving a food pellet every time it presses a lever. Now imagine that the reward mechanism is disabled. Initially, the rat will continue to press the lever with increased fervor, hoping to elicit the familiar response. This surge in activity, this desperate attempt to regain control and reinstate the previous order, is the hallmark of an extinction burst. This phenomenon, however, is not limited to the confines of a laboratory setting. It can manifest in human behavior as well, particularly when individuals or groups perceive a threat to their established power or dominance. When confronted with the unsettling realization that their influence is waning, they may resort to increasingly extreme measures in a last-ditch effort to maintain control. This can be observed in various social and political contexts, often with far-reaching consequences. The current wave of far-right extremism sweeping across the globe can be understood, in part, through the lens of the extinction burst. As societies become more diverse, more inclusive, and more attuned to social justice, those who have long benefited from systems of oppression and inequality are feeling the ground shift beneath their feet. The rise of movements like Black Lives Matter, the increasing visibility and acceptance of LGBTQ+ individuals, and the growing awareness of systemic racism and sexism represent a direct challenge to the status quo that has long favored a select few. This perceived loss of dominance has triggered an intense and often volatile backlash from far-right groups. Their once unquestioned authority is being dismantled, and they are reacting in a manner consistent with the extinction burst phenomenon, with increased aggression, desperation, and a willingness to employ increasingly extreme tactics to reclaim their grip on power. The far right's descent into extremism is not a sudden or inexplicable phenomenon. It is a calculated and cynical response to the shifting sands of social progress. As their grip on power weakens, they have resorted to a familiar playbook of fear-mongering, division, and outright suppression in a desperate attempt to cling to their dwindling influence. This strategy is evident in their attacks on education, their efforts to restrict voting rights, and their relentless campaign to silence dissenting voices. The crusade against critical race theory is a prime example of the far right's attempt to stifle intellectual discourse and maintain a sanitized version of history that reinforces their worldview. By demonizing any attempt to grapple with the legacy of racism and its enduring impact, they aim to perpetuate a narrative that denies the experiences of marginalized communities and protects their own privilege. This same impulse drives their efforts to ban books that explore themes of race, gender identity, and sexual orientation. By limiting access to diverse perspectives and challenging narratives, they seek to control the flow of information and mold young minds in their own image. Simultaneously, the far right has waged a relentless assault on voting rights, particularly those of minority groups who pose a threat to their electoral dominance. Through a combination of voter ID laws, gerrymandering, and other tactics designed to disenfranchise specific demographics, they are actively working to undermine the very foundations of democracy. Their goal is not to create a level playing field, but to rig the system in their favor and ensure that their voices, and theirs alone, hold sway. The far right's extinction burst is not merely a political sideshow or an academic curiosity. It is a clear and present danger to the very fabric of democratic societies. Their attacks on education, voting rights, and freedom of expression strike at the heart of what it means to live in a free and open society. They seek to replace dialogue with dogma, inclusivity with exclusion, and progress with regression. The stakes are incredibly high. If these extremist elements are successful in their bid to turn back the clock on social progress, the consequences will be dire. We risk witnessing a resurgence of bigotry, discrimination, and oppression on a scale not seen in generations. The hard-won rights of marginalized communities could be stripped away, and the very notion of equality before the law could be relegated to the dustbin of history. The erosion of democratic norms and institutions is perhaps the most insidious threat posed by the far right's extinction burst. By undermining faith in elections, attacking the free press, and embracing authoritarian tactics, they are actively working to dismantle the guardrails of democracy that have long protected our freedoms. Their goal is not to govern within the existing system, but to subvert it from within and create a new order in their own image. In the face of this unprecedented challenge, it is imperative that we do not succumb to despair or apathy. The far-right's extinction burst, while alarming, is not an insurmountable obstacle. It is a call to action, a reminder that the fight for justice and equality is a perpetual struggle that demands our unwavering commitment. We must meet their aggression with unwavering resolve, their fear-mongering with truth and compassion, and their attempts to divide us with a renewed sense of solidarity. The most powerful weapon in our arsenal is the right to vote. We must exercise this right with unwavering determination, ensuring that every eligible citizen has the opportunity to make their voice heard. This means combating voter suppression efforts, educating ourselves and others about the issues, and turning out to vote in every election, from local school board races to national contests. Beyond the ballot box, we must be vigilant in our defense of democratic institutions and norms. This includes holding elected officials accountable, supporting a free and independent press, and speaking out against corruption and abuse of power. We must also be willing to engage in respectful dialogue with those who hold different views, recognizing that true progress requires understanding, empathy, and a willingness to bridge divides. The far-right's extinction burst is a desperate attempt to cling to power in a world that is rapidly changing. It is a testament to the progress we have made and a stark reminder of how much work remains to be done. By embracing the values of inclusion, equality, and justice, and by actively resisting the forces of division and regression, we can ensure that their efforts ultimately fail and that the arc of history continues to bend towards a more just and equitable future.
Only you can make this happen. Nobody is coming to save us. The America Project. Your skills, our future. Subscribe, donate, volunteer, today.